Hello, everyone. I'm Rick Wingrove, and welcome to Road to Reason, a skeptic's guide to the 21st century.
And I'm Rob Penzak, and I don't have a retraction exactly, but I screwed something up last week, and I need to talk about it. 2 weeks ago, when we were here last, you remember that in that show, I asked the kindly Washingtonians if they could put out some prayers for the Dallas Cowboys.
How'd that work?
It actually worked remarkably well. That these generous people from Washington prayed their little hearts out, and the Cowboys, after 6 turnovers, smit the Giants. They smote the Giants. They destroyed them. It took a little godly help. It took 6 turnovers. My screw up, though, and I do feel bad because the Redskin fans apparently ran out of prayers and they couldn't pray for their own victory, so they got off to a poor start. Last week, I completely spaced, and I didn't ask for any more prayers for the Cowboys, and you know what happened?
Lost by a point.
They lost,
didn't they?
1 point. If we had 10 to 15 Washington residents put out even small prayers, the Cowboys would have been 2-0.
It could help. You know, it's kind of unusual that we have 2 Cowboy fans on this panel. That's kind of crazy.
It's a miracle.
What are the odds?
Anyways, what I wanted to ask for, though, is, after looking at all the studies, it looks like retroactive intercessory prayer works exactly as well as regular prayer.
That's impressive. So it works exactly as well.
Right. So if we can get some Redskins fans out there to put out some prayers for last week's game for the Cowboys, we just need 2 points. We had 20 or 30 of you guys to root for the Cowboys last week. That would put us in really good standing. And then, this week's game too. So, and I also understand that you were bringing in a bishop to help me with my prayer session.
I am, but it's not that kind of bishop. But I had one more thing to say about the football, and that's when you watch the games, you watch somebody score, and it's always like this.
Yeah.
How about when they screw up?
Yeah, on the fumbles.
Yeah.
Anyway, so my bishop. How about my bishop?
It's not that kind of bishop. It's a gentleman named Bishop McNeil, who is the head of a PAC. The atheists are going to have a PAC. It was started through American Humanist Association. They're partnered in some way with this, and he is the head of this PAC. So we'll talk more about that later, but first I want to talk about some upcoming events and some news items. So upcoming events next week on this show, Richard Dawkins will be our guest. Be interviewed by you and
I think just Elizabeth Cornwell is going to be.
Oh, just Dr. Elizabeth Cornwell, as executive director, one of our regular hosts on the show, will be interviewing him live for an hour right here. Right. So stay tuned for that. That same evening, he will be appearing at Listener Auditorium on George Washington University. I guess tickets are still available for that.
Yeah, they'll have to check online. I don't know if they're still available. And our own Jamila Bay.
I'm not sure. Jamila Bay.
Hosting him over there.
We'll be interviewing him there. Upcoming shows, Dr. Peter Boghossian.
Right, the week after that, I've got to thank Andy Thompson for this, also with the Dawkins Foundation, tipped me off to Dr. Peter Boghossian, a philosopher out at Portland, Oregon. He's a fantastic talker. I watched one of his speeches online, very persuasive, and he's going to be talking about his upcoming book, which is going to be released in November, and that's going to be Manual for Creating Atheists, and after watching his talk, I think he does an excellent job of that.
That's good.
The weeks after that, we're hoping to have David Fitzgerald at some point. We don't have time for that.
Right.
He's the author of Nailed.
Right. And some other books too, right?
Right. The one that we used a couple weeks ago, when we had Dan Johnson from I'm an Ex-Mormon, one of the books I read in preparation was by David Fitzgerald, which goes into all the history of the Mormon religion. So
Nailed is about the historicity of
right, and then Nailed is the second book that he has.
Alleged historicity.
Exactly. So we're very excited for that. So. And Dr. Andy Thompson, I think, sometime hopefully over the next few months, will also maybe come back on. He's got some interesting research that he's done. We'd love to have him back for that.
And we're working on other guests upcoming. We're going to be talking about some other topics like prosperity doctrine, which enables televangelists to just steal, apparently, and other things. And plus, we're always open to suggestion and current events. As things happen, we try to discuss them and have guests on that are, part of whatever event that is.
Right, and so people out there, if you guys have a particular topic that's related to either atheism or to religion or skepticism in general, give us a call. We'll put a number up there. You can write in at the Facebook page or give us a phone call, and we'll try to work some of that into our shows and do a little research and put something together for you.
Yeah, definitely call us. We have an open line later in the show and every show. So if you believe in God, maybe we can help you out there. We can probably clear that up for you. Or if you want to try to convince us of something, please call. If you're a presuppositional apologist, call somebody else. But call us and let us know. You can talk about the subject that we're talking about or the other things. So anyway, one news item this week, actually several, but one of interest to us is the Pope. I think we've got an atheist Pope on our hands, frankly. This guy came out this week, Pope Francis, and said that the church has got to stop talking about abortion, about contraception, and about gay marriage so much, and talk about other stuff. Talk about being good people. Talk about being inclusive. And he said some things. I watched his statements on, I forget if it was the Daily Show or it might have been MSNBC, but he talked about, if somebody comes into you, regardless of what their background, sexual orientation, or if they had an abortion, he said about a woman who might have had an abortion, but since then she got married, has 3 kids, and is trying to live a good life and everything. What is a person to do? What is a priest or a confessor to do? Which is a valid point. What do you do? Penalize this person forever for what you perceive to be a terrible mistake? So it was kind of, I thought, very inclusive, very enlightened, very humanistic approach he was taking there.
Yeah, I guess my only hesitation would be that he didn't want to be speaking about some of these things as much. He didn't go back and say, our doctrine is absurd and bizarre. Here's a woman trying to make the best of her life, and if she had an abortion, who are we to go and chastise her? So I'd like to see him say that our doctrine is wrong, as opposed to we just don't want to talk about this as much. It almost had, and I'm not judging yet. I'm hoping that he leads to a more progressive form of religion. As long as we have religion, I'd rather have it be better than worse. But it was almost like, with the Republicans saying, well, we need to court Latino voters because they got a lot of votes. Mm-hmm. We don't like Latinos too much, but we do need to present ourselves better so we can steal some of their votes. And I hope that's not what the church is saying, is that, everybody sees how foolish this is to, say homosexuals are horrible, so let's keep that on the hush. We still know it, but let's keep it on the quiet. Right. Hopefully the values will eventually translate of being, moving Catholicism towards humanism. That would be a real plus.
Right. It's almost like he was saying that the church has been wrong in the past. Well, the church has been wrong in the past. As we know, they were wrong about cosmology. They were wrong about the age, the size, the shape, the formation of planet Earth, and the size, our relative importance in the cosmos in general. But they were wrong about slavery. They were wrong about Hitler. They're wrong about gays, they're wrong about abortion, and they were wrong about child rape, and they're wrong about condoms in Africa. So,
yet it's infallible as long as that comes down from up above.
So, anyway, like I said, I think we've got an atheist Pope on our hands. It remains to be seen.
Yeah. Well, I would say also, for an atheist, none of those things would be so confusing as what should you do if a homosexual comes out and they seem like they're a decent person? How should you treat them? You treat them like a person. There's no confusion there. It's it's better for the Pope to be better than worse, but every single humanist might be a little bit better. It's like there's no confusion about how you treat people. Just be decent to each other.
Plus, and to attenuate the joy of all of this, apparently he has come out since his inclusive speech and started railing against abortion again. So, as we would expect.
Yeah, I think we have to approach this with a great deal of skepticism. We also have to remember that the cardinals that appointed the Pope are still very conservative, and so until I see a lot of things to convince me otherwise, I'm going to be going under the assumption that this is all a PR campaign. Mm-hmm. And hopefully he's a decent guy, but we need to see some actual real changes in how people are being treated for a long time before I'm willing to say, maybe religion isn't so harmful. Yes, it can do some good things. Hopefully he brings it in a better direction, but still having the belief that there's an infallible guy up top who will tell us, where our morality lies, I think that's inherently dangerous.
It is dangerous, and of course they're never-ending push to legislate morality through Congress, and not without some success.
Right.
So,
and maybe we can talk about even just the PAC in general. Like, do you think it's I'm glad if there's going to be a PAC that it's an atheist PAC, a free-thinking PAC, something to encourage separation of church and state. Mm-hmm. But is that the future that we want, is for PACs to run our democratic society?
Well, that is the future. The future is here, and it is here thanks to an absolutely epic historic failure by the Supreme Court. I'm talking about Citizens United, if I can say that.
Citizens United against the citizens of America.
Having worse trouble than usual speaking today because it is cold in the studio.
We are praying for a little warmth.
Somebody crank up the heat in here a little bit. But epic failure by the Supreme Court with Citizens United. And I mean, this is on par with Dred Scott. This is on par with, what else is extremely bad that they've done? But
well, when they installed George Bush and then said that you can't count this decision as a precedent for anything because we know we're rigging the system, we don't want to, that's...
Bush v. Gore,
right,
another epic fail with obvious negative results.
Well, just Justice Scalia, who runs things and says, we need to go by the Bible. How can we have a Supreme Court justice who admits out there openly, I'm going to make my decisions based on what, Deuteronomy tells me to do? That's a problem.
Well,
or Ken Cuccinelli, for that matter. If we have a creationist attorney general running for governor, who we've talked about a bunch of his stuff in the past. We'll do a little bit more today. But having these religious people run our country is leading to all sorts of problems for all the people here, whether you're a believer or not.
Well, yeah, and their effect on science is probably as bad as anything they've done. I mean, they're anti-intellectual. We see that. We can talk about that some. It's getting a little scary. Stupid is getting to be like a virtue.
Right.
Don't you have a book there?
We got a bunch of books on, again, the atheist pact that we're going to talk about, I think, and hopefully Bishop shows up in time for today, otherwise we'll have him back another week. But one of the ideas is that thought is not a bad thing. Thought is a good and a necessary thing if we're going to have a vibrant society. And religion has been so dead set against knowledge and reliant upon ignorance for a long time. And here in America, there's such an anti-intellectual wave. It's like Gore and Kerry couldn't beat Bush. Why? Because they were too egg-headed. How ridiculous is that we want stupid people to run the government? Right. So yes, one of the books you're talking about is Idiot America by Charles Pierce, How Stupidity Became a Virtue in the Land of the Free. And the title pretty much speaks for itself, that when you have somebody who doesn't, not everybody has time to educate themselves on all the different things that we have to work on. So if Ken Cuccinelli is not a climate scientist, that's perfectly fine. He's got other things to do. But who is he to trump up charges against some of the leading climate scientists and then base policies on his ignorance?
Literally launch an assault against a professor at the University of Virginia and cost the taxpayer $600,000 in this attempted purge. And the guy is gone from University of Virginia.
Right now he's up at Penn State.
Yeah,
and we got a book by him also, which we'll get to in a little bit. But yeah, that's we should be ashamed of Cuccinelli. We should not be saying maybe we ought to stick him in as governor.
Isn't this absolutely the worst thing we would look for in a politician or a leader, an elected official, would be to launch a vendetta, an anti-intellectual vendetta against somebody who is basically working to try to save the planet? How much worse can you, other than shooting somebody on live television? It's hard to imagine worse behavior by a politician.
Right, and that this will affect literally hundreds of millions or billions of people, and it's hard not to you can either laugh about it or cry about it, but at least you can vote, accordingly. Look at Cuccinelli's policies, not just the silliness from his religion, but the actual policies he wants to enact. Yeah. And in a month or two, we've got an election coming up that people. Another important thing about the elections is during a presidential election, lots of people go out and vote. Mm-hmm. During the off years, you have a lot less. So if you can, and this is part of why the religious right is so powerful, and I think Rob Boston speaks about this in one of his books, and Sean Faircloth may also, how if you can mobilize all of your religious base, and you're only getting 15% or 20% voter turnout, you can have religious wingnuts deciding who's going to be in our school boards and maybe who's going to be our, elected
just
officials.
Like the two politicians in Colorado who were just recalled for having voted for some perfectly rational gun sanity. And the NRA comes in, gins up a recall election, and kicks them out with 11% of the electorate. 11%. Those are the people that show up. Crazy white right-wingers always show up. They always show up and vote. So that's why we need to vote. We'll talk more about
on that same point, my train of thought disappears like that.
Yeah.
But Newt Gingrich, I'll try to come back to it. I'll see if I can
Multiple
compose the
marriage,
thought
Newt
later.
Gingrich.
Yeah, no, but I wasn't going to go on that part.
Well, if you think about it, write it down. I just wanted to get back to the PAC a little bit.
Okay.
I think the implication of this is that since Citizens United, it's clear that pure, brazen, naked bribery is the way we do government now. This is how politicians vote. You can tell who somebody's working for by what they vote on. And it's clear that, well, I don't know if anybody's got clean hands down there. If it's just the level playing field is you have to have corporate money. And so it's just pure, straight up bribery. It's just visible. They don't even have to be coy about it anymore because it's legal. And that's thanks to the Supreme Court. So what we have decided to do apparently is, if you can't beat them, join them. Let's all play. If that's the rules of the game, let's all play by those rules. So this PAC is in place, and I'm not sure if it's the first one. Maybe it is. I'm not sure. But it's fairly easy to make these into super PACs and have unlimited funds, but it's up to us to supply those unlimited funds.
Right, and then it brings the real question of if you have Koch brother billionaires who stand to add billions and billions to their wealth by getting legislation in so that they don't have to pay taxes,
right,
or that they get oil subsidies. They can go out and dump several $1 billion as an investment and recoup that. When you have, people that don't have a lot of money, how do you possibly compete against that kind of wealth?
In seriousness, that's the downside. All pretense of fairness in the election is over. It's gone. There is none. And couple that with straight up obvious attempts by the right to prevent people from voting. I think we need to attack this with two key principles. First of all, zero corporate money ever, period. That's an easy thing to identify, an easy thing to enforce. And it would make it fair and give it back to the people. Corporations are not mentioned in the Constitution. They have no rights other than the ones that the Supreme Court, the Gang of Five, has given them over there. The other thing is, our approach to voting should be, default is everybody votes. Everybody gets to vote, and it is up to authorities to disallow people, and it needs to be impossible to disallow a U.S. citizen from voting.
Right,
and I think that should include felons also. If somebody's paid their dues, paid their penalty, and done the time, how do they get a permanent injunction against voting?
Yeah, it's sort of a neat system that all the rich white-collar criminals, they never even admit their guilt, right? The corporations, they just come to a settlement. There's never an admission. There's never any jail time for any of the serious players, and they go about their lives with their multi-million-dollar parachutes anyway.
Exactly.
And then you have all the minorities, predominantly, and the poverty-stricken people that are thrown in jail for very minor crimes often.
Right.
And now, if the Republicans say, if we can stop all the blacks and Latinos from voting, we might actually be able to cling on to this for a little bit longer. And what do you know? Look at North Carolina and all the rules that get passed, and throughout the country. So it's not like we're just confabulating this stuff and wondering if they're going to pull the shenanigans. They are doing it.
They're doing it.
And it's happening in broad daylight, and it needs to be stopped, or we need to give up our democracy.
Yeah, or just straight up, right up front about it.
Yeah, and in terms, you made a good point about, the PACs, like, are we going to try to play this game? I hope that one of the planks, I understand why we need to, and it's like, this is how things operate, so you sort of need to be involved at some point, no matter how distasteful it is. Right. But hopefully one of the planks is that they point out, we need to try to get rid of PACs, make them illegal for everybody, get the money out of it, figure out maybe public funding for elections. We could limit the duration of it. There's all sorts of things we can do, right, to make
limit the duration.
Yeah, we can do lots of things to make our elections more fair and more representative. But the people with the power very specifically don't want to do that. And sadly, that's not just the Republicans. There's a lot on both sides. You look at the corporate lobbyists are everywhere, and they will blanket the Democrats and the Republicans with money.
Right.
It might go a lot more to one side. The Republicans might get a whole bunch more of this. But when the Democrats have a chance to turn things around, if they happen to have, both houses and the presidency, they don't leap to do that. And there's enough people that are still getting, all this dirty money that they don't want to turn their backs on it. And after you leave politics, there's that revolving door, they can go work as a lobbyist for a couple $1 million a year. So,
Right.
somehow we need to take money. I think we have to take money out of medicine. I think we should also be taking money out of politics. If you just have people that are going there to serve to help the country, you'll get a different type of person than want-to-be millionaires.
I think we should also, maybe as an experiment, have them work for minimum wage for a year.
Pull themselves up by their bootstraps, right? Have Newt Gingrich, the
bootstraps.
highest paid historian in world history, give back all of his money. I don't know if he should have to go, well, his first wife, I don't know if she passed from cancer, but maybe get rid, if he really wants to cleanse himself and he felt bad about, all the stuff, I don't know if he was born again, but, clearly got reaccepted by religion. Have him give all his stuff back, give all his money back, stop being an adulterer, stop criticizing other people, pull himself up by his bootstraps, let him go clean the toilets for inner city kids or urban people. What's that code for?
Right. Yeah. So the PAC, anyway, it reminds me, Ellen Johnson, the former president of American Atheists, actually has been trying to get money to candidates who are, friendly to our side, who see things the way we do. And what she found out was that some people were glad to have our money, and this is going back 5 or 8 years. They were glad to have our money, but did not want our endorsement. So she started promising people that if they would vote certain ways or, help us out, she would not endorse them. So
I think my understanding is that's part of the idea of this PAC, is that they would like to get to the point where it's in a politician's advantage that if an atheist group or a humanist group or a secular group comes out and says, these guys are much better with science, they're much more rational, it's good for them to see our support. It won't be like, well, the atheists are with them, we got to steer clear. Maybe we can go, because I think we might be having a camera problem, maybe we can go to the producer's video at some point. We got a little surprise, I believe.
yeah, let's see if we have that.
That is surprising because it's not even moving. There we go.
Is the best thing that ever happened to me. Jesus is the best thing that ever happened to me. More than a 3-hour orgasm. Jesus that leave me with herpes and that left me with HIV, that left me with AIDS. Left me with syphilis 3. Where the crust up like cornbread, and you got to get shots in your vagina every 3 weeks. I'll take Jesus. I'll take Jesus. I'll take Jesus for my. I have decided to follow Jesus. After watching all the years of unnecessary struggles, I finally, at 53, I finally get Jesus. All right. I have decided to follow Jesus for 50. I have decided. See, I found out that he'll save you from yourself. He'll deliver you from yourself. Been in the church 53 years, but just 3 years ago, I allowed him through God to using my brother talking about the Sabbath. I thought you didn't have to keep it. I thought he was talking, put too much in it. I decided to follow Jesus. I decided to follow Jesus. I have decided to follow Jesus. No turning back. No turning back. One man sat alone beside the highway begging the light, the gospel, the way of God, the will of God he could not see, understand. He clutched his rags fear, and he shivered in a shadow doubt. But Jesus came, the word of God, and that man blindness sees. When Jesus comes, close your Bibles, please. All of Satan's power, thank you, readers, is broken. When Jesus comes, He'll wipe your tears away. Tears of oppression, tears of rejection, tears of fear. He'll take your glooms and He'll fill your life with glory. Not weariness, not a sad story. All things will change. All things will change. All things will change when Christ comes in. Happy comes in to stay. Hubby, stand by your wife. Happy, stand at this time. Stand with your wife.
Right. As we mentioned before, our producer, Paul, has been on the lam from a mental institution for several months now, and each time we have a producer surprise, we are reminded acutely of that.
Yeah, it's a little weirder every time.
It does.
Where do you get this stuff, Paul?
That's what we have to labor under in our sad situation. On the brighter side, one of our prayers was answered.
Yes, our guest has arrived and is being mic'd up as we speak, so...
yeah, we're going to maybe go to our service announcements right now, and a couple of minutes we'll be back with Bishop McNeil.
At NASA right now, scientists and engineers are working every day to help humans learn how to better care for our home so that we never have to leave. NASA has a fleet of satellites around the planet that keeps track of climate change and studies how humans are affecting the planet. NASA has a ton of geniuses, and all of them are working for a future that has a healthy Earth in it. Like when NASA helped find the hole in our ozone layer so we could fix it before the problem got out of control, NASA is doing its part. We have to do ours. This is our home. To learn more about how NASA is keeping an eye on Earth, visit www.nasa.gov/Earth.
When I was younger, I didn't want to admit I had a serious disease. Because of my diabetes, I lost the sight in my left eye. Misconceptions continue to surround this monster public health issue. But the simple truth is, diabetes can often be prevented and complications avoided. You're not alone. Understand the realities of diabetes and know that you can manage it and lead a full, active life.
There's an alarming trend in the world today. Everywhere you go, people are saying that cinema is dead. But cinema is not dead. My name is Count Simon Gauntley, and on my television program, Count Gauntley's Horrors from the Public Domain, I make it my mission to resurrect forgotten film classics. I promise to dredge the sewers and ford the stagnant streams of film history to ensure that no film is truly lost to the ages. Count Gauntley and FPA, keeping cinema alive! Alive! Alive!
Well, even though Joseph's been gone 18 months, we've made the decision to keep all his things as they were when he was here last. I finally just packed his toothbrush away like 6 months ago. It had been sitting on the counter in the bathroom. And I was cleaning the bathroom one day and I just thought, okay, it's time to put the toothbrush in the medicine cabinet.
So, I just moved in with this family and it's embarrassing. The little one, he likes to go outside and crawl around in the giant litter box. I don't know what he's doing. I mean, I was born and I knew how to use the litter box. Look at that. That's disgusting. Oh, poop already. You're making me nervous. Oh, okay, I can't look at this anymore. I really hope he grows out of this, for his sake.
And our guest has arrived, Bishop McNeil. just jump right in and tell us about the new Political Action Committee.
Great. Well, the Political Action Committee is called the Free Thought Equality Fund, and it was recently launched on Wednesday of this week.
And that's with American Humanist Association.
American Humanist Association's C4, which is the Center for Humanist Activism. That's who launched it. And, the main reason why we feel like it's a need for it is because, based on the latest polls, 20% of Americans now identify or don't identify with any religion. Right. And so that's more than Muslims, Mormons, Jews, and Pentecostals combined.
Right.
It's more than the gay and lesbian community, and it makes us one of the largest minority groups in the country.
Exactly.
And so, the lack of political power that we have been exhibiting over the past is something that needs to change, and that's why the Free Thought Equality Fund was brought into existence.
Rick told an interesting story how people were happy to take atheist money before, as long as they didn't get tagged with being associated with it. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Please don't endorse us.
Right. Is that part of the goal, to make it more where they realize there's 20% nuns plus a lot of people that don't even want to admit it?
Right, absolutely. Yeah, I think that starts with us being able to organize effectively and to show that we are a strong voting bloc and have some political influence.
Well, that's what's been growing over the years. We talk about herding cats. Well,
Exactly.
the cats are now getting herded.
Exactly.
And this is part of that process.
Right. And it's difficult because we're so individualistic in our nature that it's hard to get us all together into one group. But, hopefully the Free Thought Fund will give, people the opportunity to say, these are the type of issues that I would like my politicians to represent me on. Mm-hmm. And so we're going to be standing for those issues. First and foremost, the separation of church and state, and then followed by protection of civil liberties, from reproductive rights to LGBT rights and so on.
And the advancement of science, I got to assume, is part of that package.
Absolutely.
Too.
Scientific integrity is important to us. And so, the religious right are constantly bringing issues like intelligent design, wanting to be taught in the classrooms. And so we're going to push back against that.
That's speech that needs to be met with speech and money.
Right.
Do you have a specific plan for reaching out to all the scientists, teachers, like the grassroots, and not just making it more acceptable for politicians to accept you, mm-hmm. but for all the lay people out there to say, actually I'm atheist, agnostic, or separation of church and state in favor of that?
From the response that we've gotten so far, I believe our community has been waiting for something like this. Mm-hmm. And so obviously that's a big part of our community, is the science and technology and innovation and stuff like that. And we feel like, religious right has been trying to block some of that innovation over the past. And so, like you said, scientific integrity is very important to us.
We were kind of joking, but not really, earlier, saying that based on Citizens United, it's just money is just part of the mix now. Right. Just pouring in, and money buys votes. It's just as simple as that. Right. It's just unabashed bribery. Right. So, we're going to play that game. If that's the game, let's all play the same game. Right.
Well, we're going to try. How our PAC is set up, we're not like a 527 where we can spend millions of dollars per candidate. We have a limit of $5,000 that we can contribute per candidate per election.
You can endorse actual candidates.
Right, absolutely. Our PAC can endorse candidates. We can financially contribute. We can also make expenditures on their behalf, which we're not limited to those contribution limits through independent expenditures.
Is this a super PAC, or
it's not? It's just regular federal traditional PAC.
But Stephen Colbert showed us it is very easy to make it a super PAC. Right. It was ridiculously easy.
It is.
It's a cheat.
It is, and I think some of it is trying to not get too influenced into the buying. We're not trying to buy political elections.
Maybe we should.
We need to definitely consider it. And I think that this PAC will start to bring out some more PACs will come out of the woodworks and be able to do that type of thing.
We're also kind of joking and saying hopefully one of the planks of this PAC is that PACs and super PACs, we need to get rid of them. I understand why you need to be on the field to raise some issues, but one of those issues has to be that we can't let corporations just buy people's votes.
Right. And I think that, all of us have to figure out a way that we can have an influence on what voice we want to be representing us in Congress. And so if we can't, if it's not by financial contributions, well, what other way can we have an impact? What other way can our voice be heard if it's not through contributions, if it's not through giving money to political campaigns?
And some of the things we need to strive for, and scientific integrity is part of this is not loading up the science committee in the House of Representatives with young Earth creationists. That is the most insane thing and anti-intellectual and mean-spirited thing that I've ever heard of.
Absolutely.
And also the idea of the people on the right have made such a concerted effort to pretend that there's an alternative science that we should be looking at, and so they throw around terms like junk science, which really translates into all the hard work of professional scientists.
Exactly.
And I would just love to, and I would love to get involved with your PAC. I'm really in the whole atheist movement because I see the harm that religion does. And I've definitely been waiting. You said that people have been waiting for this. I've definitely been waiting for this. So I'm really excited that you're here and want to talk about it.
Yeah, well, that's great. If anybody that wants to get involved, you can check out our website at freethoughtequality.org and go on there, and there's some good information on there. And if you want to make a financial contribution,
I was going to ask,
please.
How can somebody get you the money?
Please feel free. Yes, you can go to freethoughtaqualityfund.org, freethoughtaquality.org, and go on there and submit your contribution. Before you do, there's a little place where you can fill out a form to become a member of our C4, which is the Center for Humanist Activism. It is required that those are the only people who we can officially solicit for contributions are people who are members of that C4. So you go online, fill out the form to become a member of the C4, and then you can just go and make your financial contribution.
And are there ways that people can help you out? Since very few people have money these days, since the powerful have all of it.
Exactly.
There's lots of people I know that don't have money that would love to get involved. What are some other ways people can help you?
Absolutely. Well, like I mentioned before, we're limited to how much we can contribute, directly to a candidate's campaign. So a third, tier of our approach is to be able to have grassroots activism. And so we've had 250 volunteers sign up in the first week. They're saying, just call me. I would love to phone bank, canvas in my area, or just get more involved in the political process. And so you can do that on the website as well. You can sign up to volunteer, and we'll get you out active in the community.
Now, who was the brain behind this? Did this start with a particular person?
I believe that it started from years ago. I believe
there's definitely a need for it.
Absolutely, and it's been in the talks.
But I didn't know if right now was based on a particular event, or
we were able to get some great funding from Jeff Hawkins and his wife. Jeff Hawkins he invented the Palm Pilot, and so he was able to provide our initial startup funding, which covers 2 years of administrative costs of marketing the efforts and so forth. And so we were able to get a generous grant from him to get us started. And so it covers the first 2 years of our program, and hopefully we'll be able to continue the funding to keep that going on in the future.
Okay.
Do you put out any specific information? We've been joking around, because I'm not really joking, about Ken Cuccinelli for the last several weeks.
Yes.
Do you help organize some information to show why certain candidates are very harmful? Do you have those educational resources out there, or is that something you would be looking to do?
That's something that we definitely would be looking to do. We're in terms of our endorsements, we have an approach where we're not only looking to support atheist candidates who are willing to come out the closet, but anybody who stands firm on trying to protect the separation of church and state. That's our number one issue.
100%.
It would be great if we can get people to come out the closet, but our main issue is not your personal beliefs, but how you vote.
But you'll get a lot more people to agree with you on separation than you will on the existence of God.
Absolutely. So we're making one step at a time, but there are some local and state candidates out there who are, on the fringe with their beliefs. They're out, to their community, not necessarily out politically. And so we're going to try to influence those people to get out. So we're not just looking at federal races. We're also going to be looking at state and local races, where people are maybe more willing to share their beliefs with everybody.
Let's see. So you started the day out with a flat tire. That's why you're late. Somebody trying to tell you something, or what's going on?
I think so. There's some maybe divine intervention going on. They didn't want me to come on the show. No, I came out. I was ready to get here, and came outside and looked at my car, and oh my God, I have a flat. And so I tried to get that taken care of, and I'm glad I was able to make it here and to spread the word about Free Thought Equality Fund and about our efforts. And like I said, we made some during our press release. We made some not initial endorsements, but gave examples of candidates who we would potentially endorsed. And some of those names were Dr. Lee Rogers, who's running for California's 25th district. He's a podiatrist, and we believe he would be a strong advocate for church and state, as well as to protect scientific integrity. Another example of an endorsement that we would consider making would be State Senator Will Brownsberger, who is running for Massachusetts 5th Congressional District to replace Representative Ed Markey, who took John Kerry's Senate seat. And so, you know, those are a short list of candidates, of challengers who we're going to potentially endorse, and as well as we're going to be using our scorecard to endorse candidates who are already members of the House. And so we have a good program and process set forward to be able to make some endorsements here pretty soon.
Now, this is not your first rodeo either. I'm sorry. You've been in politics for a while. I
have, yes. I've been more so on the state and local scene. I've been here up in the D.C. area for about 3 months now. Coming from North Carolina, I've been in many roles on campaigns, from field organizer to district field coordinator to campaign manager. So that's kind of my background is on the campaign side, and so that's where we're trying to we're not just throw money. We want to win elections, and so that's what we're going to try to do.
Can you talk? Do you have a kind of a broader social platform, like as humanists, that not just separation of church and state? Can you talk about, are there any official things that you guys are pushing for? Can you talk about those?
Just overall protecting civil liberties. We believe like individuals should have the right to, as long as they're not causing bodily harm or injury to other people, they have the right to think and act and to be their own type of person. So any type of issues that infringe on someone's rights to, for example, reproductive rights for women. That's something.
Explain to me why that's not a Republican platform.
You would think so, because it's such a, even separation of church and state is such based on the Constitution, and we hear them, rambling on all the time about, being strong constitutionalists. Well, these issues are grounded in the Constitution.
Absolutely.
And so
staying out of people's lives is their platform.
Absolutely.
Their mission,
I saw the Supreme Court talking about judicial activism and all those ultra-conservatives that didn't want justices messing stuff up. And then they went in, they handed the election to somebody, they stepped into Florida's state rights and overruled them, and then said, but don't use this as a platform going forward, because we're just making this up as we go.
Right.
So yeah, it's easy to say one thing and behave completely differently.
Very, very convenient.
And hopefully you guys can call them out. Hopefully you guys, that'd be great to have a site where you gather this information and it's a nice official political site, and you have reliable information people can go to.
Right.
So I'm really excited that you guys are there.
Absolutely.
Being a progressive in North Carolina had to be pretty disheartening.
I had to get out of there.
Probably literally.
No, literally.
The stuff that's going on there is just terrifying.
We're backwards. It's going in the wrong direction. And being a liberal, progressive, democratic organizer, with Democrats losing office, that means less jobs for people like me. Yeah. So I had to get out of there and get up here to more, progressive minds, and so it's been great so far.
And it's scary here because Virginia, it's got some progressive historical roots.
Yes.
But you look what's going on here, and it's really scary. We could easily.
What if Cuccinelli won?
What if Cuccinelli wins? We can be the next domino.
It's just moving right. North Carolina, Virginia is moving on up. Yeah, but hopefully, the Northern Virginia voting bloc will stand up.
Yeah, this is the most educated portion of the country,
absolutely.
And that does make a difference in the voting. But whether or not it's going to carry the whole state, we're still.
You never know, right? You never know.
You don't know which way it's going to go. You got to turn out. I was just saying earlier that in Colorado, 11% of the vote knocked those two people out on recall. That's all the people that had to show up.
That's it.
NRA knew that. This is pretty smart on their part to do as a recall, because they know that the angry white people show up at those things, and
that's
true. All the stoners in the state don't. So,
that's right.
Not that there's anything wrong with that. I'm just saying.
And hopefully you guys can also just raise the awareness. As I say, one story is my son had back to school night, and I've only been into kind of an activist in atheism and secular stuff for the last year or so.
Okay.
But just it changed my frame of reference. So I went to his back to school night, and the science teacher had a slide up that said, it didn't say evolution, it said like change and heredity. And so then I asked her about, well, do you guys teach evolution? And the response was more like, well, do you want us to teach evolution? And I spoke to her afterward, and I still couldn't get a clear answer. And then I eventually spoke to somebody in the district who was a biochemist who had written about Darwin, was very invested in this, and so we had a great conversation. But raising that awareness to just regular people that you atheists and secularists or even just religious liberals that don't want us to be a theocracy, you need to step up because this is what's going on in our schools.
Right.
And the kid gloves that they had to treat that question with and how they danced around it is really scary for me. And I wouldn't have been aware. And again, I hope you guys really raise that awareness for a lot of people.
Well, I think that's our goal.
You should point out Edwards v. Aguillard. I know Louisiana's trying again to teach creationism in Texas, the school books. But two good things about that. First of all, everybody's going, a lot of schools are going to iPads or that type of technology, which will make it easier to individualize that and avoid having to buy textbooks from Texas.
Right.
You know, Edwards v. Aguillard, 1987 Supreme Court decision, outlawed the teaching of evolution. Excuse me, creationism.
You said evolution, didn't we?
I said evolution. I meant it outlawed the teaching of creationism.
Right.
And specifically in Louisiana, it was a Louisiana case. And this is what they do. They just wait long enough and just ignore and act like nothing ever happened.
Right. You know, like I said, I believe that strongly. You know, it'd be great if we don't mention it at all in public schools, but definitely not in public school science classes.
Yeah,
you know, that's for philosophy, that's for religious studies or whatever.
There are some comparative religions.
Exactly.
It's great for them to teach what it is, where it comes from.
Absolutely.
We don't teach numerology in math classes, so why creationism in science classes?
You know, it's funny that, you know, a recent study was just released that showed that atheists and agnostics have more knowledge about religion than Christians, or, you know.
That's because our parents, like my mom, sent me to vacation Bible school every summer when I was a kid.
Absolutely. Growing up in the South, I know. Trust me, I grew up very religious.
Made me an atheist.
Right.
The Bible. I always urge people on the show, read your Bible.
That's
serious. Read your Bible. There's crazy stuff in there.
That's right.
Can you say anything about, in terms of your own participation in this, you know, what led you to secularism, atheism?
You know, I've been a lifelong skeptic my entire life. You know, the stories that I was taught in Sunday school didn't really hit me, you know, but I don't think I really had a voice to what my beliefs were until...
But you were probably immersed socially in a heavily religious community.
Heavily religious, and, you know, especially African-American community is such a religious, it's going to be the last group to really come out to take this next step to becoming a non-believer. But, you know, just growing up in the South is very hard. The stigmas related to atheism and non-belief is really deep, and so, like I said, it wasn't until I got to college I was able to really formulate my beliefs into, you know, what they were, and this is the different theories that are out there. And so ever since then, ever since I was, you know, immersed in the knowledge of the movement, I've been an activist ever since.
So that kind of confirms Rick Santorum's fear that education will get God out of it.
Absolutely. I say that's one of my favorite quotes. It absolutely will. Absolutely.
Yeah. Santorum, please run for president again.
Except that it's scary that you look at, he's not like, there's this one wingnut Santorum, right? There's Perry, Palin, Bachman, and you just go through a list.
Well, Bachman's going to jail, so...
yeah, I don't think she's running
with any luck, because, you know, improprieties and handling money, ironically, is still illegal under some circumstances. But
I guess you should have been in Texas, where it's, I think, pretty legal and encourged.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, Tom DeLay was just had his conviction overturned in Texas.
I heard about that,
for bribery. I forget exactly what it was. I think it was bribery or money laundering.
Something to do with money, something.
Yeah. So that's disheartening also.
It is, it is.
In terms of helping candidates come out, do you guys have any strategy, you know, other than hopefully getting where we hit a critical mass?
Right.
Or there anything you offer other than coming out completely? And what are you?
I believe that, you know, we're looking to take some approaches similar to the Clergy Project, which was very effective into getting out members of the clergy and priests and whatever reverends to come out and about their beliefs. And so taking a similar approach to that. But yeah, we definitely sending them packets of information, talking points of, you know, if you're worried about what someone might say on this issue, well, here's a way that you could respond to where, you know, you could still have your, you know, whatever your religious beliefs are, whether you want to keep private, whether you want to make them public. You know, here's some talking points to where this is the best way that you could accomplish that. And so those are the two approaches I think we're taking to encourage people to come out. And we want to be able to come out together. I think individually it's hard for people to, because they feel like everybody's looking at them. So if we can get maybe a group of 20 or so people to come out at the same time, I think that will go a long way, and then it'll help them to feel ease to do that.
I think that's huge, because you get the benefit for the first person stepping out.
Right.
Well, they maybe get, the fear is they get voted out of office and then the others get scared off. But if you get a group of rational, reasonable, humanitarian people stepping
Exactly.
out, it's sort of hard to criticize people that are looking
Right.
to broaden voting rights, broaden health care,
Right.
broaden the safety net.
Right. I think, and what's Representative Barty Frank came out the closet recently after he was, out of office. We would have liked him to make that decision maybe a few years ago. But I believe that if we can get some people who have been in Congress and to say, oh, well, this guy has represented me for the past 8 years. He's an atheist? Well, I didn't really know that. It doesn't really change how I view him. He still voted on the long lines that I thought that he should have.
He's an atheist, but he's so nice.
Right, exactly.
And also, if you can, I don't know if there's any push to do this, but if you could broaden it to a bunch of, lots and lots of scientists are atheists, and only a tiny amount have come out. If it's not just 20 Congress people coming out, but 90% of our biology teachers, if you could make this a broad movement.
Right.
And I've had, it's funny, because sometimes I'll bring a book that talks about separation of church and state or atheism to wherever, to my soccer games for kids, wherever it is.
Right.
And I've had very positive responses. Somebody peeks over your shoulder. Most people, I don't think, want us heading toward theocracy, whatever their religious beliefs.
Right.
And so I really think there's a broad audience that is.
Well, there is.
Also, I'm not having I don't know if people can see. I've been sitting here shivering for the last 30 minutes. So if you see shaking, I'm okay. It's just, freezing.
2 layers on it and freezing.
Right.
But one thing I find out there is that if even people you're debating viciously debate, one way to get a little agreement is say, well, we can both agree on separation of church and state.
Right.
And most of the time they will concede to that.
Yeah.
Not always.
Not always.
But more often.
No, I think we have, like you said, like we mentioned earlier, we have to hit home that this is a constitutional issue.
Yeah.
Put it back in their face. They want to constantly throw that, out as an excuse or as a justification for why they want to impose their religion on other people. Well, let's use it as a justification for why they shouldn't.
Yeah, it's like the Good News Club. I know that they have no compunction on proselytizing to other people's kids. How would they like other people proselytizing Islam, for instance?
Right.
Not to pick on Islam, I'm just saying a real obvious example that they wouldn't like would be Islam being involuntarily proselytized to their kids in the public schools.
In the public school system, right, absolutely.
Well, a lot of getting the prayer out of school wasn't a bunch of atheists that were against it. It was, the Catholics and the Protestants didn't want kids learning the opposite thing.
Or Jehovah's Witness also.
But it's just, these religious minorities, because all religions are kind of a minority. So again, there's this misconception that the atheists are bringing it down, but it's really, everybody realizes if we're a pluralistic society, we need to be much more tolerant, and having one Lord's Prayer from one specific sect is only going to agree with that one specific sect.
That's one thing that'll draw a silence for you. You like theocracy? Which religion?
Right. I mean, you'd be surprised at the number of religious people who say we're tired of government entanglement in our beliefs.
Yeah.
And so it's not just atheists. This is if you don't want the government telling you how to live your life, these are issues that you should care about.
Yeah, that prayer is not necessary for interstate commerce. If it's the answer, it's a stupid question.
On the back to school night, the other course, I'm really light at my son's school now. The other course was in civics. They happened to have a sign where it said democracy and a couple of posters down theocracy. And so I asked, do you have an official policy? What do you guys teach in terms of church and state, and where were we founded as a Christian nation?
Right.
And once again, and I think this was a fairly liberal teacher, but she said something like, well, that's one of those delicate issues that we're thinking, they prepped for this very clearly. And again, that speaks to the whole problem. They can't just, as an educator, say, no, we weren't, our founders were deists, and go through it.
Exactly.
You got to be really careful, and the more you guys can bring that up for everybody to see, so it's not just some small atheists on a little show that some atheist or some very vehement religious people want to watch to yell at us.
Right.
You guys are a political organization that can make this case really well, and can't wait to see that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I wish y'all the luck. No, go hard. Go big.
Go home.
Send my
go
prayers
big, go
to
home.
you that it works well.
Give us the email, but the website again for...
It's freethoughtequality.org or freethoughtequalityfund.org.
You do accept contributions.
Absolutely. Yeah, we do accept contributions. Absolutely. They're more than welcome, and it'll be a long, just a quick note. In our first week, we were able to have received the 51 contributions and able to reach a threshold to be a multi-candidate PAC. And so, contributions have been coming in, volunteers have been coming in. So the first week has gone, better than expected.
Well,
so.
First week must have been crazy, but what's next? What's your first big event you're going to do here?
Well, hopefully we're going to be making some endorsements. Maybe hopefully this week we'll be announcing our first initial endorsements and be able to, get some contributions to them, and not only that, but also to direct our supporters to contribute to their campaigns through different platforms we have set up online.
Is there a way for atheists and secular communities to call in, write in, get some involvement in helping, say these are some issues we're worried about and help you guys shape a plan?
Absolutely, yeah.
How would we do that?
You can go online and submit a form or email us, and we would definitely reach out. We're actively working with other movement groups in our community to try to coalition and
You're reaching out to the other national organizations?
Absolutely. They have Secular Coalition of America has been, has some involvement in what we've been doing, and so we're definitely reaching out to all the atheist movement groups. Please, send us your ideas and.
We're told to kind of tone down the money talk because we're public radio or public television. So forget that last question.
But the idea is again, my interest really is that it's great to have a political organization where maybe we can have some reach and say climate change is something we take really seriously. Defrauding all these voters now and marginalizing so many people is a real problem. And we've talked about a few of these socials. Trayvon Martin, that wasn't just a black issue, that's an American problem.
Absolutely.
David Tamayo is one of our hosts. He's the founder and president of Hispanic American Free Thinkers. Cuccinelli wants to take Arizona's laws where, hey, you look Mexican, I think I'm going to card you, and bring those here to Virginia. That's not just a Mexican or Hispanic problem, that's everybody's problem. If we want to live in a vibrant democracy, if we want to accept each other, it's so divisive, and we need to figure out a way to get away from that, and it'd be nice to have a political group that doesn't have to be so careful about what they say and just says, yeah, that's not so ethical, we're against this behavior.
Right, absolutely.
Also, hopefully this type of outreach will tend to continue the trend of normalization, which I think is a huge part of what we do, is continue to present ourselves as not the spawn of Satan.
Exactly.
That they were told for 2,000 years.
That we are.
We're your neighbors, we're your cops, your IT guys.
We're your congressmen, we're your representatives.
We're your family members.
Right, absolutely.
And so that type of normalization, which comes from this ongoing interaction, doing normal stuff.
Right.
And participating in the process and showing some muscle, showing numbers, showing voters, and flashing some cash.
I like what you said at the beginning, how there's 20% nuns. That's bigger than all these other minorities.
Right.
We have, we should have a bigger voice, and a lot of those people are the really educated ones, the really scientific ones that need to help lead the way forward.
Right. We just got to do better.
I think this is a great development, and that's why we wanted to have you on the show. However, we are just about out of time.
Oh, no.
Just want to urge people, go to the website. Say the website name again.
freethoughtequality.org.
And remember, tune in next week. We have Richard Dawkins. I'll be talking to him, and Dr. Peter Boghossian the week after that. Thank you for joining us. See you next time.